everyone, welcome to episode 10 of This Is Actually Pretty Cool. If you're new here, this is a web series where I am slowly but surely researching and cooking my way through a cookbook slash memoir. Came out in 1988. It's called In the Kitchen with Elinor Donahue. You can check out episode 1 of this web series for just sort of a highlight of Miss Donahue's career, and then also just to hear me talk about what you can expect from this series and how the book is formatted and things like that. So today I am pulling from page 34 and page 35 of the book. Page 34 is that little story that Miss Donahue tells us before, each recipe. And so today's recipe is on page 35. And I'm really more corroborating information using Peter Ackerman's book. You'll remember if you've seen the other episodes that he is one of Elinor Donahue's sons. And then also the archive of American television interview that Miss Donahue did in 2006. And I've also pulled some information from Wikipedia. All right. So if you may remember from last episode, if you were able to watch that Mary Elinor Donahue, as she was known at the time, has just scored her very first film acting role in a film called Mr. Big that premiered in 1943 when she was 6 years old. So the next, I would say 3 episodes, if I remember correctly, are going to be about this film. So I am just going to go ahead and recap it a little bit. There's a plot recap on Wikipedia, which is good because I was not able to find the movie like on YouTube or anything like that to actually watch it. But basically, Mr. Big is a film that takes place in a dramatic arts school, and Donald O'Connor works at the school, Donald O'Connor's character works at the school, and he's written this musical comedy for like the big school play. But the owner of the school, whose name is Mrs. Davis, disapproves, and she's like, we're not doing a musical, we're going to do this play by Sophocles instead. So we're not going to do a fun musical, we're going to do a ancient Greek play from ancient Greece, right? So, and what every child at a dramatic school for the arts wants to do, right? So Mrs. Davis takes a little trip to New York, and the students with Donald O'Connor's character are like, what if we turn this play into a musical? And they manage to do that, and, they have an opening night. They're very excited, but then Mrs. Davis comes back from New York, and she is not happy until a Broadway producer agrees to finance the show and produce it in New York. And then suddenly Mrs. Davis is like, awesome, sounds great. All's well that ends well, right? So this film starred Donald O'Connor, Gloria Jean, and Peggy Ryan. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Donald O'Connor and Gloria Jean, and then next week we'll talk about Peggy Ryan. Miss Donahue tells us that she had a major crush on Donald O'Connor. So she would have been 6 at this time. Donald O'Connor was born in 1925, and he had quite a varied career. Probably the musical that he was in that would be the most recognizable is Singing in the Rain. He was in the Make 'Em Laugh dance routine, and he was awarded a Golden Globe for his work in that, right? So anyway, I could talk about Donald O'Connor more. It's just a really fascinating Wikipedia entry, but our recipe today actually comes from Gloria Jean, so we're going to focus on her a little bit more. Just going to briefly tell a little story that Miss Donahue tells in the book. She tells it in her interview. Peter Ackerman tells it in his book about, I had a major crush on Donald O'Connor, but I was trying to act all like cool and calm and like, I appear in feature films every day. This definitely isn't my first one. And so then, Donald O'Connor, bounces onto set and says, his line to her, which was, "Hi, Muggsy," and all that kind of like cool, calm, chill 6-year-old kind of faded away because she got so excited and so overwhelmed that she started crying and, had to be taken off the set and kind of calm down. And I don't know who my crush as a 6-year-old was. I feel like it was probably an animated character, like maybe He-Man or Inspector Gadget. But I can tell you that I would have reacted the same way if I had, met them. And so, yeah, I thought that was really cute. Also, she says that, in the movie, her character's name was Muggsy, which is possibly the most 1940s name to ever exist, right? And her nickname back home when she lived in Tacoma was also Muggsy. And so she thought that was a really cool coincidence. I also think it's a really cool coincidence. At the same time, like I said, it's a pretty 1940s name, and I would love to get some poll of how many children or people in general had the nickname Muggsy back in the 1940s. Anyway, right, okay. So that kind of ends our time with Donald O'Connor. He passed away on September 27th, 2003. So I do hope that he was able to read this book and just read about how, he touched Miss Donahue's life. It sounds like she had like a really favorable interaction with him, right? She also had a favorable interaction with Gloria Jean, and she was one of the stars. Her character is the niece of Mrs. Davis, the lady that's like, we're doing Sophocles or we're doing nothing, right? And her character has a crush on Donald O'Connor. Imagine that. And so Miss Donahue tells us like, hey, I loved her ever since I saw her in If I Had My Way with Bing Crosby. And she says, she was really sweet to me. She made me feel really comfortable on the set. Briefly about Gloria Jean, but a little less brief than about Donald O'Connor. She was born on April 14th, 1926. So she would have been 11 years older than Miss Donahue at this time. And she passed away on August 31st, 2018. And she was in 26 feature films from 1939 to 1959. She was also on the radio, television stage. She did nightclub appearances. Wikipedia notes that she may be best remembered for her performance with W.C. Fields in the film Never Give a Sucker an Even Break from 1941. So she did that film before Mr. Big. She was born Gloria Jean Schoonover in Buffalo, New York, and her ancestry was Pennsylvania Dutch. And the coolest thing I thought about her was that, she was a child actor and she was in all of these successful things. And then she had kind of taken a break from Hollywood. She did like a tour through the US and then she did a European tour, but that got cut short due to like a really unintentional faux pas that she made in a performance in the UK. And so then, she comes back, and as with a lot of child stars, she wasn't really wanted by Hollywood anymore. And a lot of child stars really experienced that. They didn't kind of know where to go, or maybe the directors didn't know where to go with them once they had aged out of these child roles, right? And so, in 1965, she's having some problems with the IRS. And she was like, listen, I'm not going to keep sitting here and just waiting for Hollywood roles, right? I'm going to go ahead and just get a job that's not in Hollywood. So in 1965, she got a job as a receptionist with Redken Cosmetics, and she was there until 1993. She told reporters in 1986, I'm very happy. I feel I had a wonderful past and I have a contented, happy present. And her films are beginning to receive new exposure, according to Wikipedia. And something that I thought was really interesting related to this entry specifically, Universal Pictures has struck new 35mm prints of Mr. Big for theatrical use, so would really love to see that in the theaters. That would be really cool. It'd be really cool if Miss Donahue could be involved with that at some point. But yeah, I think that would be really neat. Gloria Jean was still alive when this book was written. She actually contributed, I know, at least one recipe because it's the one we're going to do today. Miss Donahue says, we still see each other occasionally and her joy with life is just as apparent now as it was then. And she seems like she was a really cool lady, so rest in peace. And so today we're going to make her recipe tacos. All right, so it is time to taco about tacos. This recipe is called My Tacos, and Gloria Jean actually added, gave a little note at the beginning of the recipe. She says, I was introduced to tacos when I was very young and very hungry, and I always thought they were everything great all wrapped into one. So I think Gloria Jean and I would have gotten along food-wise, because I also think tacos are everything great rolled into one. I don't know that I've ever made myself a taco before, so let's see how this goes. All right, so you take 2 pounds of ground beef and you brown those until they're crumbly. So this is the finished crumbly ground beef. Now, the recipe says drain the fat, right? That makes sense. Add the crushed garlic, taco seasoning, and a dash of Tabasco sauce. Add salt and pepper to taste and simmer slowly, stirring occasionally. Now, I'm honest with you, I missed that part about, like, essentially it has to go back in the skillet and cook some more. So I'd already like drained the fat and taken it off the heat before I read that. But then also, and this is not, it's not criticism to Gloria Jean, it's not criticism to Elinor Donahue, there's probably something here that I'm just not understanding. It didn't, to me, make a lot of sense to simmer it once you drained the fat. I didn't really understand like what you would be simmering it in at that point, since the only liquid that you would be adding is the Tabasco sauce, and even that is just a dash of it. So anyway, so just know that those are the original directions, and I just, partly due to my own just not reading, you know, beforehand, did it a little differently. Okay, so we're going to take 2 cloves of crushed garlic, add that. And then this says 1.25 ounce package taco seasoning. I did most of my shopping at Aldi. If you're, you know, returning to this series, you know that is per usual for me. So this is, I was only able to find a 1 ounce size. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I'm fine with it having a little less seasoning in it. So let's go ahead and pour that over. We're going to do our dash of Tabasco sauce, which I really like with these recipes. And I don't know if this was like intentional or, you know, on Miss Donahue's part or anything, but I do like that we're reusing a lot of the things that we've used in the first few recipes, because it makes me happy that I didn't buy this whole, you know, this whole giant thing, right, of Tabasco sauce just to like use it one time. So we're going to do that. I did a few splashes of it. And then we're going to add salt and pepper to taste. Just a little bit. And some pepper. All right. So I am just going to take a big spoon here and stir this up. And I'm hoping it will actually stir pretty well. It's still a little warm. And this might, again, be the reason that you were supposed to simmer it. But, you know, it is what it is, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just stir that. Like I said, I've never made tacos before. I went to Spain one year, which Spain is not known for their tacos. But before I went, I gave myself a little going away party with some friends that I was living with at the time, and I actually just got tacos from Taco Bell. I know, but we were college kids, and I was paying for everything, so that was what we could do. So, all right, so we've got this mixed up. I think it mixed up pretty well, actually. This is what it looks like here. All right, so we are, the next step is to fry a corn or flour tortilla until crisp in any type of oil. I already went ahead and did that. So I used olive oil just to maybe make this a little healthier, so you can see that. It didn't say, well, it said until crisp. So this isn't probably as crispy as they mean, but it's not entirely soft either, right? So I'm gonna take our taco shell here. I'm gonna fill it with some of the beef, I would assume, not like all of it. Can you imagine that, y'all? Can you imagine a taco that had like 2 pounds of beef in it? Like, I don't even think they make a shell big enough for that, right? So I kind of want to get a lot out of this. This is kind of basically my like meal for the week. So I'm not going to add as much beef, but I did about that much, right? Okay. So then the rest of our ingredients, so essentially just the rest of the filling for this, right, is we have 2 bunches of green onions. She didn't say what to do with those, so I was like, well, they probably mean like slice them. So those are my green onions. 1 bunch of cilantro leaves. Now, I'm not a huge fan of cilantro. I do not have the gene that makes it taste like soap, and that's good. I have a friend who just has a really hard time at Mexican restaurants because she does have that gene, and cilantro is just in like everything in Mexican restaurants, right? But it's not my favorite thing either. I am adding it just to try to follow this recipe as closely as I can, but I just did like that much cilantro. And then we had a head of shredded lettuce. Again, y'all, I'm making this almost like 9 o'clock at night here. So I just shredded a little bit of it, enough for my 1 taco that I'm gonna like taste test for y'all. And then we have, let me see here 1 second. Cherry tomatoes sliced thin. She didn't say how many. I hope it's 17 because that's how many came in the thing I got from Aldi. And I also hope that she accounted for how many tomatoes were going to go into my mouth in the process of this, right? So I probably ate an equivalent of like just 3 tomatoes, right? So that, and then forgot this. Got to put this out. Sorry, y'all. Please ignore my messy refrigerator. Keep it real here, y'all. Also, so it calls for shredded cheddar and shredded jack cheese, right? So cheddar wasn't really a problem, right? Shredded jack. I went, Aldi didn't have, well, so here's the thing, right? I could not, for the life of me, find a thing of just shredded jack cheese, right? Like just shredded Monterey Jack cheese. So I finally ended up just saying, like, listen, I can't, there's only so many stores I can go to, right? So I ended up getting this that's finely shredded Colby and Monterey Jack cheese. So yeah, I feel pretty okay about it. All right, so anyway, so I, oh, and then you have 2 cans of black sliced olive. She didn't say what size, or I'm sorry, she said small cans. So this was from like a 6-ounce can, but it's just a few olives. And then 2 small cans of diced green chilies. So I got 2 4-ounce cans of that. And then, so anyway, so yeah, we're gonna just add a little bit of like the rest of this to it. So I'm just gonna start off like in the order the recipe goes in. So I'm gonna do just like a few green onions. Maybe just like 2 cilantro leaves, since it's not like my favorite thing. A little bit of shredded lettuce. I hate when like a meat taco is just mostly lettuce. I mean, I know people do it for like cost reasons, but all right. So we've got that, and then a few cherry tomatoes. Like I said, I had just gone ahead and sliced all the tomatoes for this, so I'm just going to add like 3 or 4 slices. Some black olives. I think this is the first time I've had black olives on a taco. I'm just going to add a little bit of the green chilies, like that much, let's say. Okay. And then I didn't go quite in order because I haven't done the cheese yet, but I'm okay with that. So I'm just going to do, well, I meant to get one of those like fancy taco holders you can get, you know, so you can hold it in place, but that did not happen. So we're just going to add a little bit of this Colby and Monterey, and our taco's getting pretty thick. And then we'll do, oh no, I'm having a hard time carrying this. Give me just a second, guys. All right. Okay. All right. Let's do a little bit of cheddar. Surprisingly, this didn't call for sour cream, which I normally do like on my tacos. But that's okay because we don't have any sour cream in the house anyway. And then finally, taco sauce. And y'all, at first I was like, what is taco sauce? And then I was like, oh, Jennifer, it's that stuff that's in those packets at Taco Bell that you don't get because you've already shoved like 5 tacos down your face, you know, before you even see those taco packets. But anyway, I got this Ortega mild. I could get it open. That would be amazing. There we go. All right. Okay, doesn't smell too spicy. Been having some heartburn issues lately, so I'm trying not to like aggravate it. She says that she prepares to eat a taco at 9 o'clock at night. Okay. All right. Here we go. So the moment of truth here, right? Here's our giant taco. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and try this. And we'll try it from this end, okay? Okay, sorry about that, y'all. I did not think I took that big of a bite, but apparently I did. All right, so that's pretty good. It's taco. I definitely want to add sour cream to it. Like, I don't feel like it's dry. Sorry. I feel like it's a little dry, but I do think like some sour cream would take care of that. The flavors are really good. It has definitely some heat to it. But I don't think too much. Like, I think if you're pretty comfortable with generic mild tacos, and I don't mean that as an insult, by the way. I'm just saying, like, if you can handle mild tacos, then you could handle this, is all I mean. And I can handle mild tacos, so I can handle this. All right, so that is it for today's episode. I'm gonna go finish the rest of my taco and pack all the rest of this up. Miss Jean tells us that we can save the leftovers, which I completely intended to do. She says it's better the next day. She also says that this recipe serves 4 to 6 or fewer if the few are really hungry. Like I said, I'm planning for this to be like lunch and dinner for the next few days at least. So yeah. Right, I hope y'all enjoyed this episode, and I will see y'all hopefully sometime soon for episode 11. Bye!